In this video with Gianmarco, you will learn the importance of standard operating procedures, also known as SOPs, that will help you to better manage your Amazon business, starting with your daily tasks to onboarding new team members. Also, you will be introduced to 5 different types of SOPs sellers can create for different types of tasks necessary to run a successful Amazon business. If you want to get mentoring sessions with Gianmarco, find a special 20% discount below in the description of this video. And this video is hosted by Lisette Lees. She works with different Amazon brands. And finally, if you like videos we create, click the like button below and subscribe to our channel.
Hi, could you please introduce yourself and tell us what you do in Amazon space?
Hey guys, this is Gianmarco. I'm originally from Italy, but I spent most of my adult life, let's say, in China. I launched my first e-commerce business in Shanghai. I was selling imported food products to the Chinese consumers with a Chinese partner, and that didn't end up very well for me. After a couple of years, we split. After actually we got invested by a VC, an accelerator, so we got a very good experience on the way up, but then it went down. And after that experience, I started sourcing products from China for other people in Europe, and then I ended up sourcing my own product for Amazon, and that's where I started selling on Amazon about 3.5 years ago. And since then, I'm selling my own private label product on Amazon. And I recently also launched a podcast called The Seller Process, where we share insights about systems, processes, and SOPs for Amazon sellers. So that's kind of my story, very short.
Okay, very interesting. And today you are here with me because I think you're a fan of systems and creating SOPs in a way. So today you will share a couple of tips with our viewers how to create systems and create SOPs. So I wanted to ask before, I know you have a presentation for us as well, but before that, I wanted to ask, why do you think having systems is so important for Amazon sellers?
Well, that's definitely a point that I'm going to touch more in deep during the presentation. But essentially, it's we will not find any CEO of any company, let's say above 7 figures, that's not a big fan of SOPs and systems. That's really the basics to start to build up your to actually scale your business and build it up to a more significant level. So you can start by being like a solopreneur with just everything running up in your mind, but then after, if you want to do it seriously, you have to embrace systematization, and you have to embrace SOPs and systems in your business to move forward.
Okay, very good. So let's help others to improve their business and their systems, and let's go ahead and see your presentation.
Awesome. So guys, this presentation is going to be about capturing systems and creating SOPs. You see the tagline there, systemize your business to accomplish more with less. That's all it is about. Through systems, you can accomplish more. You can leverage more what you are doing to accomplish more. You can basically do more with less. That's the main purpose why we're doing this. So what are the SOPs first of all? So one of the definition I like to have is that it's simply the way you do things, written down or in a video form, so that it can serve as a model of how a specific task should be performed. Okay, SOPs stands for Standard Operating Procedures. Sometimes it's something that people might see it as intimidating, but essentially it's really the process that you are already doing, but in a written form. Just instead of being inside of your head, they will be in a video form or written down. before to go deeper into why the how to set up, how to create and capture these systems, let me tell you a little bit more of why this is so important and why you should start implementing it in your business if you haven't done that yet. So the first point is that you want to have consistent outcomes. Okay, it's not anymore, the time when you have like a small business and you just wake up and do things by your own. You have to have a consistent system, consistent outcomes that only can come from written down or very organized systems. Okay, so this way you can consistently get the same results over and over again. And basically, if you are usually if you have not consistent results, you cannot really drive your business forward, and you cannot scale it because you cannot predict how things will go. And another good point that I actually think that it's not very much understood by most of people is that they think that by standardizing processes, you take out the creative part out of the business. But actually, I'm going to tell you that's the opposite. SOPs and systems help you free up your mental energy. That's because you, instead of spending your mental energy into doing all those tedious tasks, those everyday tasks that are very tedious and repetitive, you can follow the systems that you implemented and just do it without thinking about it, so that you can spend your mental energy in more creative tasks. So actually, standardizing processes, it will help you increase your creativity because you're going to shift your mental energy to creative tasks instead of the day-by-day operations. Another very important aspect of creating SOPs is that they save you a lot of time on trainings. So what I'm talking about, if you're going to scale, you will need at some point to have the help of some VAs or other people, teammates. All right. So at this point, you might have all your knowledge in your mind, and it's going to be quite hard to transfer that knowledge to other people. So what you do is that through the SOPs, through sharing these SOPs, you are also sharing knowledge, the knowledge that is right now it's in your mind. And if you prepare all these systems and processes, you have all of them in place before you start hiring. Actually, this will save you tons of time when you do the onboarding or the training of these people. Because, for example, on my business right now, I have all the SOPs written down already and in videos. So what I do, it's basically handing over these videos and SOPs to my new assistant, to the new VAs, and they just train themselves because I've already recorded everything. So that's gonna be really a huge time saver. And the last thing is that SOPs help you streamline complex processes. What I mean by that is that when you go through like any process, let's say like keyword research, these have a lot of steps. It's a very complex process. If you think it in your mind, you might think that that's the best way you are doing it. But actually, if you put it down, you write down the steps, or you create a video about that, you will be forced to think every single step. And while you do that, you can actually improve every little step. You can improve it or even eliminate it, because sometimes we do too much. Maybe we do unnecessary things. Okay, so by writing it down, basically you are streamlined. You help your mind to streamline those complex processes and go through like line by line and improve it. So these are some of the main advantages of creating SOPs. So let's start then how to create these SOPs. So I'm gonna give you 2 tips before we dive deep into the structure of the SOP. So the first tip is that if you never created an SOP, try this experiment. I challenge you to do this right after this video. You're gonna watch this video. So choose a task that is in your to-do list. So let's say, for example, you have a lot of things to do today. One of these is keyword research. Okay, great. Then go to a website called apowersoft.com, and that's basically a screen recorder, and it's a free one. So that's why I'm suggesting you that. I also use it, or you can use any other screen recorder. Then set it up, start a new recording of your screen, and then start doing the task as you would normally. Like you just do this keyword research as you normally would do. And but this time you have to also comment what you are doing. You just say out loud what you are doing, okay? And then after it's done, you just hit stop and you're just done. You have created the first SOP, okay? That was very, very simple. That's why I'm talking about capturing SOPs, not capturing systems, not creating systems, because the systems are already in your mind. You have them already. You know the process, you know the steps. It's just in your mind. So you have to put it into a video or in a text, in a Google Doc, in order to be shareable, in order that you can work on that and you can improve that. Okay, so that's tip number one if you have never done any SOP. Obviously, we're now going to talk also about different ways that you can improve and make it more complex and more usable and shareable with your team. So tip number two is that the story of the hare and the turtle. Do you remember that story? What was what we learned from the story? Steady and slow win the race. That's the main learning point of this. And what I want to say about that is that we're here for the long run. Okay, so creating SOPs is not a big one-time investment of your time. So that's why most people don't even start creating their SOPs, because basically they are kind of worried about spending all that time. It sounds like a daunting task, but actually it's not. You should make yourself a goal to schedule in your week, say 1 or 2 tasks, and turn those into SOPs. So just spend like half an hour more when you are actually doing that task in the week, during your week, and turn those tasks into SOPs in the way I'm going to show you. Okay, so this is it. You have to have this in mind. Steady and slow win the race. So we're here for the long run, and I'm gonna tell you, if you do this after 3-4 months, you probably have already documented everything in your business. So you will be like, you will set yourself up for growth, long-term growth, thanks to this. All right, so I want to tell you now like a few different types of SOPs. There are many. I'm gonna give you like 5 examples of how you can structure the SOPs, and with some like real life examples using SOPs that I created in my own business. So the first one, it's written, is the most simple one. It's an SOP with text plus images. Okay, so this is ideal for like step-by-step processes that only have one possible outcome. For example, like how to create a shipping plan. Okay, so that's a very simple process. Like there's few steps. You can basically write down the steps to actually create the shipping plan, plus adding some screenshots, and that would be very easy to do. Another example is to create guidelines for offline procedures like photography and graphic design. Let me share with you like an example of what I have done for my business. This is an SOP to create A+ content. So obviously this is just one part of it, just to show you how it can look. So there's text that gives some guidelines and directions to the designer on how I want the A+ content to be designed. Okay, so here how to create an hero image and how to create a product carousel. Okay, so now I've trained my designer, and now she's great. She's really good at she just learned this process, and now I just tell her, look, we have this new product. Go get design the A+ content, and she just follow this direction and she does it. It's great. So it's working very well for me, and it can work very well for you. What's the tool that you can use to create text SOPs? Simply Google Docs or an Office document, and you store those in a cloud storage like Dropbox or Google Drive. Okay, we go simple. With SOPs, we need to be very simple. With all the systems that I'm going to share with you, I only use Google Docs or spreadsheets. I don't use any strange tool to systematize my business. Then the second type of SOP, it's the videos. This is the most used of all, and it's the most practical. This is actually perfect for most of the tasks that happen into a computer. So basically, you can screen share you can share your screen and record it, and it's very actually useful on all those to explain all those tasks that have a complex thought process. So you can actually explain during the video what is your thought process. Okay, it's not something very linear. Do 1, 2, 3. It's something more complex, like for example, keyword research or product research and validation. These are like things that depends on so many variables that you cannot explain it in steps. You have to show you have to show people who are like your team members, or even just doing it for yourself. If you're doing it for yourself, you remind you remind yourself what is your thought process on that. Okay, so an example, let me show you here. Keyword research, as I said, you see here on the left there are the steps. Each step of the process, it's basically one video. Okay, so step 1 is watch this video to set up the tool for product research. Second step is how to the second phase of researching keywords, and that's another video. Third step, it's also another video. So this whole process is a very complex one. So basically, I've recorded lots of videos to share each step of the keyword research process. Okay, how can you do that? You can create these videos using a screen recorder like a PowerSoft. That's a free one. I also use it, and Vimeo or Loom. These are 2 paid ones. They have obviously more features. All these 3 are quite good. You just need to explore it and see which one works best for you, and you can store them either in a cloud storage like Dropbox or YouTube, or Loom and Vimeo. Obviously they self-store the videos, but many times, for example, I record a video with a PowerSoft and then upload it on YouTube. But in that case, guys, make sure that you set it up as a private video. Okay, you don't want to share with the world, with everybody in YouTube, your secret SOPs. Okay, so make it private and just add those people that you can add the emails of those people who can watch it. So that will be you and your team members. The third type of SOPs that you can create is the so-called process maps. So these are good to describe a process from a high point of view without many details, so that it can give you an overall understanding of how the process looks like. So for example, I'm going to give you this example of the product development process. Basically gives like a high level overview of the whole process of product development. So this is something, this is the actual process that I use for my business. So first there is product research and evaluation, and inside that there are several steps. Each step has its own SOP. And then there's sourcing, then samples evaluation, then confirm orders, order in production, and then product shipment. Okay, so I have here also target timeline, with the target timing, target timing that I want to spend on each of these phase. Okay, so that basically, it gives me like an overall a view of how the product development process look like. And then each step has its own SOP, like in the way I showed you before, like a written SOP or a video SOP or something else that I'm also going to show you. And by the way, this map here, you can download it. I will tell you later in the end how you can download everything that I'm showing you here. So going back here, the tools that you can use to create something like that, like process map that you saw, I used Canva to make that, or you can use also Lucidchart. Both are free, and they works great. They're very easy, and you can store them again in your cloud, in your favorite cloud storage like Drive, Google Drive, or Dropbox. Right, so let's go to the fourth. The fourth is flowcharts. So flowcharts are great to describe processes that follow a sequential order, and you use it. You basically describe the sequential order in a visual way, and usually there are some different factors that goes into this process. So sometimes depending on the factors, you do something. Or if something else happened, you do another task. So just to be more practical, let me show you another example here. For example, PPC optimization or launch processes. They are all kind of complex procedures that you may want to show it into a visual way through a flowchart. You can see this one. This is a very complex flowchart. Used for product for PPC optimization. You set up initial launch campaigns. So here it shows you all the launch campaigns that the system is suggesting you to do. This is something that was shared by a guy I interviewed in the podcast. So for example, he's suggesting every 7 days to do some actions on the launch campaigns, and then after 3 days look for irrelevant search terms and so on. So you get the concept. So if something happened, you do for example, you see if there is a more than $10 and 0 sales, you do something. If there is a cost more than 100%, you do something else. Okay, so it's a binary option. You do different things depending on the outcome. Okay, so this is very useful for this type of processes. Creating a flowchart, it helps you basically follow the process more easily and in a visual way. How can you create this? Again, with Canva or Lucidchart. This was created with Lucidchart, and you can always store them in your favorite cloud storage. The last type of SOP are checklists. These are very famous with pilots. Usually, in every flight, before to leave, they go through a long list of a long checklist in order to make sure that you can fly safe, so they don't forget anything. That would be a disaster if they forget something. The same happening in your business. It would be a disaster if you forget to do something in your business because you just didn't have the right system to do it. So checklists can help you do that. They are great for whenever you have a list of tasks that has to be done without a strict order. For example, product setup checklist and new order checklist. I'm going to show you the one that I created in my business. For example, once the products are available in FBA, so as soon as the product hits the shipping plan, turns to receiving, the products are receiving in Amazon. So then this process starts. So, we start to track keywords in Helium 10. We add the brand story content. We create the new portfolio in the Amazon Campaign Manager. We enroll it in the Vine program. So it's a list that reminds you all the things that you have to do every time a new product comes to FBA. Or for example, another example here is the order process. So every time we're making an order, we have to remember that we need to share the PO with the supplier. We need to update the pricing in our sheet that tracks all the prices that we're getting products at, and then we need to update the shipping plan with the tracking number and so on. Okay, so you also get the point here. It's a list to remember everything that you have to do. How can you make this? Just again in a Google Docs or in a project management tool. For example, Asana. I use Asana. And I actually suggest you also to use one project management tool. It doesn't has to be Asana. I would suggest the best ones are Asana and ClickUp, but you can use your own if you have already one. But it's very useful to use a project management tool to help you with streamlining your processes and put in some checklist and also organize better your tasks, especially if you have more people in your team. So then you can store this again in your cloud storage, or they just sit into Asana in your project management tool. All right, so let's go into a more in-depth structure of an SOP. How do you actually create that? How they look like in a more professional way? How can you make them look professional and useful, obviously, for you? So first point is that you have to write down the SOP number and the SOP name. Okay, so in this example, 1.4 inventory levels check. 1.4 is the number of the SOP. 1 stands for the department number, and 4 is the SOP number. I'm going to tell you more about that in a second. We can go deeper in how to set up this number so that you can easily find all your SOPs, because at some point I can tell you it will become crazy if you have lots of SOPs. You need to have a good way to find them. So I'm going to share with you how. The second point that you want to put into your SOP is that why is this important? This is a key point to add in every SOP, because especially if you are going to share these SOPs with your teammates, you have to let them know why the task they are doing, it's important, how that affects the overall business. Because sometimes we get through all of we get busy doing all of these things in the business, all these day-to-day things, that we forget why we're doing it. And especially for somebody who is external from your business, you have to share with them why this is important, how this impact your business, okay, so that this can motivate them to do well the task. If they don't know, especially we're dealing now with millennials, like people born in after the 90s. So these people are really like I am. So I value a lot doing important things. Most people do want to contribute to something bigger than themselves. So we need to share with them why this is important. And then estimated time required, it's the third point. This is self-explanatory. You just put in a number that just to give an estimation on how much time this should take, like 45 minutes, 60 minutes, and so on. Then the fourth point, it's something that it's missed by a lot of people. Resources needed. You should make a list of the login credentials, tools, documents, everything that is needed to perform that task. Because if you're going to hand over this process to your team members, and they are going to come back to you and say, okay, all right, but where I can find this? How do I log in here? Where do I find this document? So inside the SOP, you have to have all the things that necessary to perform the SOP. Okay, so that's very important. Otherwise, it's not useful. You're going to get a lot of back and forth from your team members, or even for yourself. Just collecting everything about that SOP inside the SOP itself. It's very important. The next point is that you have to also share the frequency or the trigger. So this every SOP it should be run, for example, let's say periodically, let's say every Monday, or sometimes there's a trigger event to start doing that process. So for example, after you receive the pictures from the photographer, that's where the SOP to create the product images starts. Okay, so there is always a trigger or a frequency into each SOP. So when this starts, we need to know that. Then the measurement, like what's the metrics or the KPI, or what is the successful results look like. So if there is a metric, for example, we need to, for example, for wholesale people, we need to contact X number of suppliers, or if we need to research X number of keywords, we need to check X number of keywords. That might be your KPI that you want to assign to that specific SOP. Sometimes not all the SOPs have a KPI that you can attach with. So you can write what a successful results look like. So for example, creating a shipping plan, it doesn't have any KPI, you're not going to track any metric related to that, but then you can share like what a successful results look like. So basically just creating the shipping plan with correct information. That's a successful result basically. And then we get to the last point of the SOP, which are the steps itself. So all the steps that to perform that process. So in this case, you need to obviously number each step. That's something that no many people do, and it makes things more confusing, because with this method you can actually track very well each step, and you can name each step very precisely. So for example, if there is any problem with one step of the process, you can talk with your designer and say, look, I found that you missed step 1.2.2. What happened? And you can work with that. You can name each step. So what these numbers means is that the first number is the number of the department. The second number is the number of the SOP, and these are the numbers of steps. So you see 1, 2, and 3. So the department number, basically, I'm suggesting to the way I'm structuring this for easily finding and structuring the SOP is that you should divide your business into different departments. And I can share here a list of 8 departments that I use. So number 1, inventory logistics. Number 2, marketing and ads, creative production, product development, customer service, finance and admin, general operations, and brand website. So in each of these departments, basically, you are going to have several SOPs. So in department 1, inventory logistics, there is going to be SOP 1.1, and then SOP 1.2, and then SOP 1.3, and so on. And then you see here, so this means department 1, SOP 2, step 1. And then this is step 2, step 3, and so on. Okay, I hope this is clear. So this is an easy way to basically name each step, so that each step and also each SOP, so that you can easily find them back once you need to look for them. So for example, here it's a process that it's a SOP that I wrote, new order creation 1.4, and you see all the elements that I just mentioned. So why is this important? The estimated time, frequency, resources needed, what a successful results look like, and the steps. Obviously, it's not the whole SOP because of there wasn't enough space, but there is all you need to see, just to give you an example on how it will look like. And if you have videos, obviously the steps might become the video. If you have all the steps into a video, instead of the steps, you will have the videos. Or in the resources, you can put the flowcharts and the process maps that I mentioned before. So this is how it all ties together. Okay, everything that we just mentioned, it all comes to an SOP that have this structure with these 7 points that I showed you. You can see here with the estimated time, the steps, and so on, the metrics, and so on. And that's really I think the best way you can create an SOP. So let me give you, before we close, let me give you a few best practices to run effectively SOPs effectively. So the best practice number one is that you should assign only one responsible person for each SOP. Okay, that might be you, or it might be your team member or your teammate. Okay, but only have one person, and that one person should be the one that updates the SOP. Because you have to understand that it's always a work in progress. Like systems continuously change as the business evolve. Also, the SOPs evolves. Your systems you should continuously improve your systems. So this way, basically, you are going to have maybe your team member to update for you the SOP as things change, because he's the responsible person. So the responsible person always need to keep the SOP updated. And that's how actually you are going to scale your business, because then you are going to outsource, to delegate this task, the SOP creation, to your team members. So at the beginning, maybe in the beginning, you might do the first bunch of SOPs yourself, but then you're going also to delegate that part to your team members. The second best practice is that you should number and name SOPs in order to easily find them. So you should use the numbering technique that I shared with you before, and just choose a simple name that you are going to, it's very descriptive of this process, so that you can easily find it. And this actually leads to the third tip that I'm going to share with you, which is to create an SOP index. Let me show you how this look like. Essentially, this is a database of all the SOPs that you have created. And because at some point you will have maybe several dozens of SOPs. So how can you find them easily, and how can you keep them updated easily through an SOP index like the one I'm showing you? So here you write, the SOP number, the title of the SOP, which department it belongs to, and then the links, the videos. This obviously is just an example, so it's not filled up. You can download this spreadsheet. I'm going to tell you why how in a second. But essentially, what I suggest you to do after creating all the SOPs in the way I showed you before, then you're going to list them all into the SOP index. So you have a very ordered process. So you have an ordered process on how to store and find these SOPs, because it can get tricky at some point. All right, so that's how can you. That's all my suggestions on how you can create SOPs. Then I'm open now for question, Lisette, if you have any.
Thank you very much. It was so interesting to listen to you, because you give such a great detailed overview. So my first question would be, if now our viewers are super ready to create their first SOPs, then what are the tasks you would recommend they should create their very first SOPs for?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. So basically, I would recommend to start with what you know well already. Okay, so that's a starting point, because as I said, the process of creating these SOPs, it might seems daunting in the beginning. Okay, so people are scared even to start, because it might take a lot of time. So start with what you know already very well. Okay, so that's one point. Or because so then, I mean, if you know them very well, you're going to be even like fast at creating the SOPs. You will be very confident at creating it. So that's a way to start. Then the second point would be, if you have any task that you really don't like, or you think you are not good at, or you really feel like you should delegate it to somebody else, then write those down, and so that you do that little sacrifice, that maybe you don't like that task. So you create those SOPs first, so that you can delegate that part as soon as possible. Okay, so because you want to focus on what you're best at. Okay, so you want to really do work on your area of genius. Okay, so that's a second type of task that you can focus on. The ones that you want to delegate, do it first.
Okay, very good. And do you have any suggestions what sellers should do with the tasks? They don't know themselves. They are not sure how to do them, but they would like to have a guide or SOP file in order to hire a VA. So what are the options they have?
Yeah, sure. That's common. You know, many times it happened that, for example, you know, people. I can speak to that. For example, in social media, I don't know how to run social media very well, so I don't even know how to create the SOP. So you know, first of all, as the CEO, as the owner of the company, you should know a little bit of everything. Okay, you're not. You're not supposed to know very much in all the details of everything, okay? Because that would be too much if you're going to scale the business. So my suggestion for that is, first of all, you get the help of somebody. So you can start by either like reading about it, listening to a podcast, watching a video. You learn a little bit about it, and then you start getting the help of some other people, like a VA that is an expert on that. And then you can hand them over how to create SOP. So essentially the SOP of how to create SOPs. Okay, so maybe you can share with them this video with your VA and tell them, look, listen how to create an SOP and get me an SOP on how to run social media for my brand. Okay, that's actually a way I would suggest to do. Like, just tell them your process on how to create the SOPs and let them create the SOP for you. And obviously, because you are the business owner, you are the CEO, so you have to have like a little bit back and forth. You have to be coached in a way by this person to understand if he or she really knows what he's doing, and then if it makes sense for you, you just have this person be the responsible person for putting forward this SOP and running actually the system, like in the actual operations of the process.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. I think now it's a good time to ask what's the best way to reach out to you personally if anybody has any questions after watching this video and would like to learn more about what you do. So first, what's the best way to contact you? And also, could you give us a little bit of an overview of what you do in addition to being a seller?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, you know, everything that you guys have seen, you know, in this presentation, you can download it. It's free if you go to the thesellerprocess.com/systems ebook. This is an ebook I wrote, and you will find, you know, the information that I shared with you today, but also some other more tips. And you can go like more in depth on this topic, and you will find also the links to download all the SOP index, the process map, and the flowchart that I showed you before. You will find it all in this video. And what I do also is that I run like mentoring sessions, the specifically focused on 2 points. One is that confirming your product idea. So if you download or you just look at the product development process that I just showed you before, you will find that one of the steps I always use is that I have a third person, an experienced seller usually look at my products before I launch them, because before I want to invest money into launching a product, I want somebody like a third party opinion on the product. So that's essentially what I do. I develop like a very strict process of evaluating products, and so I can help you with that. If you would like to before to invest in your product, I think might be a smart idea to have a mentoring session to get a third opinion on this product. And I will tell you like very genuinely if that's a product that I believe you you will have success with, or maybe I might suggest you not to go for it. So and that's what I also do with other people. So I have also my mentor who tell me like if the product I'm going to launch is going to be a good one, because you always need another person opinion to understand if it's a good investment or not. And then the second way I can help you with is to gain more time through efficient systems. So we can go through like the way you are structuring your days, your systems, your tasks, the way you do things. And I'm very confident I can share with you at least one or two insights that will save you hours of your time. So if you feel like overwhelmed, you're working a lot, you have all these processes that are like very not very well organized, I can help you with that and help you streamlining your business and gain more of your time. And so for Orange Click, I have 20% off offer. So if you guys everyone who is watching this, I usually charge $100 per session. For those who are watching, I'm very happy to do it for a 20% off. So it's $80 for a session. You just go to thesellerprocess.com/mentoring and book a mentoring session, and just write Orange Click, and you'll get the discount. And if you want to reach me, here is my email, and you can add me on LinkedIn. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, and you can check out the podcasts at thesellerprocess.com and perhaps find more ideas on how you can streamline your business and do more with less, essentially.
Perfect. Sounds really good. So thanks again for joining me, and I really hope to see you soon again. So good luck in your business.
Great. Yeah. Thank you very much, Lizette.
I hope this video was useful and you enjoyed it. Click the like button, don't forget. And if you would like to get a mentoring session with Gianmarco, check the link below in the description. It will give you a discount of 20%. And now I would like to invite you to watch other video on our channel where with Chris Rawlings we talk about A+ content. And in this video, Chris breaks down the whole formula how to create the best A+ content possible, which converts.